So this was the first piece that I ever got of comic art. My father bought me this piece for my 16th birthday, and I had been interested. I loved Bernie Wrightson's work, and I saw an ad in the Comic Buyer's Guide that there was going to be a show in New York at the New York Comic Art Gallery, and they were going to be selling some stuff. So I called and I asked if they had anything available, and they, of course, back then there was no internet, so they mailed me something, and they mailed me a picture of this and a picture that also, I guess, has been sold recently. It was a thing called How Do I Get Out of This Jam or something like that. It was a splash page. And I immediately said, oh, I want that, because I remembered it from the inside cover of a creepy magazine that I had. And my dad was a little shocked when I told him the price, which was $150. He said, $150? I said, Dad, it's my 16th birthday. I'm not asking you for a car. I just want a piece of comic art. And he said, you know, that you're right. Let me go ahead and I'll do that. So he purchased this for me. I had it. As soon as I got it, I put it in a frame, not this frame, and I had it over my bed in the whole time I lived at home. I took it with me to college. I took it with me to law school. And have had it somewhere up in my house ever since my father bought it for me in 1975. So this piece I actually got in the last couple of years. I had earlier, I bought a Jack Davis story that was in one of Russ Cochran's auctions, and I love Jack Davis, and I actually had the pleasure of meeting him and actually getting to know him, which has been really nice. This piece I purchased because when I bought a house, I had to sell the Jack Davis story that I had bought many years before, and I didn't have an EC piece from him anymore, and this became available, and I jumped on it. And the thing that I really like particularly about this piece, it's different from a lot of EC splash pages, because most of the splash pages actually are only 2/3 splashes. They have a large panel at the top, and then they have two smaller panels at the bottom. But this one really presents almost like a cover. So I was pretty excited to get it, and it's got a great Crypt Keeper piece on it, and I just love it. And I love the cross hatching that Jack does. It was just an amazing period for him. And when I showed it to him, he was pretty amazed. He said, gosh, I wish I could still draw like that, because you know, he doesn't do that kind of cross hatching anymore. This is one of the more recent pieces that I purchased. This is by an artist named Yuko Shimizu. About 2 years ago, I saw that there was going to be a Kickstarter for a new book called Little Nemo Dream Another Dream, and I'm a huge Little Nemo fan, and I got this book and saw this piece and loved it. And then I went to a lecture over in Athens, Georgia, that was put on by the Jack Davis Foundation, and the speaker was Yuko Shimizu. And I really didn't know her work at all, but I had the opportunity to see it there, and then there was a dinner afterwards, and it turned out that I was seated next to her, so we got to talking. And I got to meet her actually in New York and go to see her studio. And when I was there, this piece was on the wall. A print of this piece was on the wall, and I asked her if the piece was still available, and she said it was. And I immediately said, gosh, I just have to have that. And I just love her work in general, but this one, the black and white version of it, is so different, I think, than the color version, and they're both amazing in different ways. But when you walk into my house, this is the first piece that is on the wall. It's just as you come into the house, it's on the right-hand side, and I think it's a great introduction to my home. I love the piece, and I'm super glad that I got to meet her and find this. So this is obviously a Dark Knight splash. I got this in 1987 at the San Diego Comic-Con. I guess I got pretty lucky. I walked up to the table, and there were a couple pieces for sale, a bunch of pieces for sale from the books number 1 and number 4, and I bought a piece from book 1, which was a panel page, which I since traded, and I bought this piece, which luckily I was able to hold on to until now. I love this piece. I think that it has a really great, eye appeal. I think that The inking on it, I think is great. I think it's got a composition in particular, something that I've really always enjoyed. I love the way that it has the V created with the blacks of the buildings, and then that's reversed by the horses at the bottom, and then you have Batman charging through with the dark horse on the underneath, and then the lighter Batman above, and then you have the cape coming down and cutting through the blacks on the right side of the piece. It just, appealed to me then. It appeals to me now in the same kind of way. The only reason it's not in a frame now is because I took it out so that they could use it, a scan of it for the new book that just came out. But it's going to be jumping back into a frame shortly and back on my wall, and I'll be happy to see it there. So this piece is a sketch. This is obviously a less expensive piece, but it has a lot of meaning to me. So in 1977, I was still in high school, and I was in New York City, and I went to a show at the New York Comic Art Gallery, which was on Broadway, and they had a great show of Mike Kaluta stuff. He had all of the art from Shadow Number 2. And I went, and I couldn't buy anything because it was just too expensive. And I walked down the stairs, and I ran into Mike Kaluta actually coming up the stairs to the show. And I said, "Oh man, I'd love the work up there." And he goes, "Well, did you buy anything?" And I said, "No, I didn't." He said, "Well, why not?" I said, "Well, I just couldn't afford anything." And he said, "Well, what can you afford?" I said, "Well, I have $15. He said, "Okay, well, come back tomorrow, and I'll bring you a sketch." And I came back the next day, and he brought me this sketch. And it really taught me two things. First, that Mike Kaluta is a great guy, but second, the humanity of the people who actually draw this stuff. I mean, he knew I was a 17-year-old kid, I didn't have any money, and he made sure that I got something that I could remember from that show.